Welcome to the Green Transition Show with me, Dr. Francis Tuokuu. Today, we have an important topic to talk about. It's water security in the midst of climate change. And we have an important guest in our midst. He's Justin Adonadaga. He's the Executive Director of Kalabash Aid. He operates in Ghana. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thank you, Doc.
It's good to have you.
Yes, I'm most grateful to be part of this Green Transition Show.
I know you are someone who is very passionate about environmental and water security issues. So it's good that we have you on our show. We are so happy to have you to unpack all the issues around water security, climate change, and generally environmental issues. So how is Kalabash Aid? How is work at Kalabash Aid? How are things going with you?
Let me first of all start by briefly introducing myself. Like you said, my name is Justin Adonadaga, and I'm Executive Director at Kalabash Aid. Kalabash Aid is doing well. The rains are yet to come in, and we are a bit concerned, and I think we'll have a lot to talk about. Kalabash Aid, basically, we are into the water supply for the communities, both for drinking and for irrigation purposes. And we equally support environmental activities that protect the water bodies.
Kalabash Aid, how did you come by that name? Kalabash. And then we know Kalabash to be, Kalabash is our traditional cap in the northern part of Ghana and most part of West Africa, right? And it comes from the gourd plant. But you spell it as, so the spelling, usually it starts with C, but your Calabash is K. How did you come by the name?
Okay.
And why that name?
That's an interesting question. I wasn't expecting that. Anyway, so actually, like you rightly said, the Calabash, it's a symbol of Northern tradition and culture. It symbolizes water in its purity form. Those days when we're growing up, when visitors came to your house, you serve them water in a calabash. And it is a calabash that is neatly washed and scrubbed inside, looking very white. And when they serve the water, you can even see the bottom of the calabash because the water used to be very clean. And it symbolizes hospitality, our humility, and our kindness, especially to visitors. So water, it's a unifier. It bonds people together. It is from that concept, and that with the fact that Calabash basically, I mean the NGO Calabash basically is set up to develop the water sector, make sure it is available in its best quality, both for drinking and for other uses. So this is the concept behind the Calabash. With regards to the K, at the time of registering the NGO in the year 2007, there was already a Calabash with the C. So at the Registrar General's department, you won't be able to register two organizations in the same C. So that's why we went by the K. We didn't want to lose the name.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I like the concept. The concept is really, really good. I think a lot of thinking went into it. All right, this is the Green Transition Show with me, Dr. Francis Tuokuu. Our guest is Mr. Justin Adonadaga. He's the Executive Director of Kalabash Aid. He works or operates in Ghana. If you are new to the channel, kindly hit the subscribe button on YouTube to motivate us to continue to bring you insightful conversations. You can also follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on TikTok. Today, we are talking about climate change and water security. No water, No Future, Climate Change and the Battle of Water. And this is episode 21 of the Green Transition Show. Now, let's dive into the issues. Justin, how has climate change affected the availability of water for domestic use in our communities?
Doc, thanks for the question. Climate change, although it seems to be something new, the root causes didn't start today. We are discussing the outcome of things that happened many years ago. Where we are working currently, like I rightly said, we've been there for quite some time, since 2007. So if I should say we are celebrating our 20th year coming September, and we have seen what climate change has done to the region. Let me be very practical, because citizen science, it's very, very important. Climate change has brought a lot of negative impact to the region. First of all, the northern part of Ghana, specifically where we operate, we used to have 7 to 8 months of rainfall, which spans from April until November. As I speak, today is the 7th of June, and across northern belt of the country have not planted because the rains haven't yet set in. And they have just under 4 months to complete their production cycle. So if the rains decide to show up this June and they plant their crops, they will have until October, beginning of November, to complete the farming cycle. What that means is that we will need seeds that will be able to complete their growth cycle within 4 months. Let us not go there, because that is for another day. So climate change has increased the number of months without rainfall. So we are having more drought. And what that means is that with less rainfall, the reservoirs, the river bodies that collect water, now receive less water. So with 4 months of rainfall, we are going to collect less water in these reservoirs, and we are going to have little water to farm. So we are going to have low yields, even as we have not yet begun the production. As at yesterday, there was a heavy downpour in the north, and farmers are beginning to be excited. But there is something I'm going to tell you. We have what we call false starts. The rains will come heavy, the farmers will rush out and plant their seeds, and the rain can decide to cut off. This is a typical example of what we call rainfall unpredictability, the uncertainty that climate change has caused to our rainfall pattern. We no longer can predict it. In the 80s, we could predict when the rains will come and when exactly they will stop. Currently, that is so difficult, even with climatic models. So the impact of climate change is heavy on the people. It causes drought. And when these rains decide to come, they don't come. Doc, Francis, they don't come, they pour. You are from the region. When the rains are coming, they come with storms, heavy storms. And then they wash away everything. So we are having two extremes: drought related to climate change, and we are having heavy downpours that come within an hour or two. They come so heavy, they wash everything away. And because they come so heavy, they are not able to infiltrate into the ground, to recharge groundwater. So a lot of it's runoff that washes a lot of all the chemicals, because we also don't have developed toilet systems. All the chemicals, all the waste everything is washed into the river systems, further polluting river bodies. So the effect of climate change on food security, it's dire. Poverty, it's increasing. With 4 monthly rains, 4 months of rain, and a spell of up to 7 months without rain, even the water that is collected in these water bodies, they cannot survive the drought of up to 7 to 8 months, spanning from December all the way back to May. The water bodies simply cannot survive that period. And don't forget, climate change is squarely responsible for the rising surface temperatures. As I speak, there are reports that have estimated up to 1 temperature degree Celsius rise in surface temperatures across the northern part. Currently, our temperatures, they range between 34 degrees to 42 degrees Celsius in the dry season. This also means excessive evaporation in the water bodies that are available. So although these water bodies do not receive so much rainfall, the high temperatures, climate-induced high temperatures cause evaporation in these water bodies and across the entire region. So a combination of rising temperatures also takes away the water in these reservoirs that are supposed to serve the people throughout the dry season. So climate change, if I want to talk, I will keep talking and talking, but the effects are actually dire. They are dire on the people, and as we go on, we will expose a lot more.
Yeah, so you've talked about the drying up of river bodies or streams as a result of climate change. You've also talked about the impact of climate change on poverty in our communities across northern Ghana, not just northern Ghana, across Ghana and other countries in Africa. Now, I want us to talk about the impact of water scarcity, the impact that water scarcity is having on household income, food security, and poverty levels. If you can give us practical examples in your work.
Okay.
I know you interact with a lot of communities. I know you meet different people. Now, how has that impacted, how has climate change or how has water scarcity influenced or what has been the influence of that on household income and poverty levels?
Okay, Doc, let me start by saying that the multidimensional poverty indicators, the report in Ghana, squarely puts all the poverty incidences across the northern regions. And the driver of this situation is water, because the livelihoods development and the empowerment of local communities hinges on the availability of water. Agricultural production, or let me say the agri sector across northern Ghana, or Ghana in general, and actually across Sub-Saharan Africa, the agricultural sector drives production. It drives economic development. So where water is stressed, it impacts livelihoods, it impacts employment, it impacts education, it impacts health, it impacts everywhere, energy, it impacts virtually all sectors. So climate-induced water stress and its impact on the livelihoods of the people is terrible. Let me be very practical. Agricultural production of maize, sorghum, millet, peanuts, granite, and all the other crops depend heavily on availability of water. The shortage of water impacts production. It impacts livelihoods. Northern part of Ghana is the breadbasket of animal farming, not only vegetable farming, but animal farming. These animals depend on these water bodies. Agriculture depends on this water. Even with irrigation, modern drip schemes for farming, which are being piloted across the region because of their water use efficiency, are still struggling to operate throughout the dry season because the water is simply not enough. We are not talking of more water supply. We are talking of managing the demand, the current water resources, managing the demand. So water scarcity, which is induced by climate change, is a big issue. Let me give a typical situation, and it might shock you. You know of the UNESCO Ramsar sites.
Yes.
They provide places, or there are places where birds, animals, species of international importance, I mean, that is what they are meant for. So they protect species of international importance under the UNESCO framework for the protection of species of international importance. There is a particular story I'm trying to push through. There's the flamingos. Normally, they fly from Mali to southern Ghana to eat when the temperatures are so unbearable in the Sahelian part of Africa. There's this particular water body in a community called Kazgo. It's under the Paga constituency. So the flamingos normally fly on their way to southern Ghana. That is where they stop. They stop there to drink water and then continue their journey. To cut this story short, normally they come around March and continue their journey to southern Ghana to go and eat and to return back. But because the flamingos are unaware that that reservoir no longer has water, is dry. When they get there, if you go to that particular reservoir between March and beginning of April, you will find the flamingos dying. Because they know the route. Because when they get there to drink water, they are already tired. They land there and they don't get water to drink. They are no more, they don't have energy to continue their journey. So you will find them there. So the communities come out because they are birds that we have branded them because of our tradition that it's a taboo. So they fetch water for them to, they try to keep them alive so they can continue their journey because they are birds that we attach spiritual importance to them. I'm just trying to point to the fact that climate-induced a drought, it's affecting these sites, and these sites are touristic sites. They provide livelihoods for the people because people can travel all the way to that community just to come and observe the birds. White people used to come there to come and observe the birds, study them, and they pay the people, they make friends, they take some of the children abroad, they pay their fees. You get the story I'm trying to make.
Yes.
But now that is gone. So with water scarcity, it is not only about the direct impact on consumption, where women now have to walk longer distances to fetch water, where girl child education now is being impacted because they spend so many hours to go collect water, where hand dugouts, which are very common in the area, now are dry, and there is no sources to collect water. The limited boreholes which are there, as you know, as a matter of fact, we conducted a study supported by the Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies in Ireland. And we did a ground monitoring of aquifer reserves across the region, all the way from Hamley to Gambaga, trying to map out the volumes of groundwater across the region. And it will amaze you that we are experiencing dramatic groundwater decline. And it is also worth noting that across that region, we have limited water resources or water sources. We only have the surface one, which is in the dams and the reservoirs. And then we also rely on groundwater. So groundwater is a key component of the supply system for that region. And with groundwater also going down because recharge is low, rainfalls are not heavy, and recharge is low, groundwater is going down, rivers are drying, hand-dug wells are all drying, even the boreholes. A lot of the boreholes, reports from the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, they are a very good partner we are working with in the region. They reported about groundwater decline, and that is not only affecting domestic water use, it is affecting even ecological levels, because the groundwater recharge is what maintains the ecological functions of the river basins. So you see, all of this poses a wicked problem induced by climate change. Domestic livelihoods are impacted, income levels are low because the people depend on farming, which no longer can be supported by rains, and the irrigation schemes are not yet being developed for the people. So it is a serious situation, Dr. Francis. It's a very serious situation.
It is a very serious situation. But like you rightly pointed out, but we know that illegal mining activities have also impacted on water security in terms of pollution. We are also aware that waste disposal is also having an impact on water pollution. So can you tell us how illegal mining activities, farming, waste disposal have impacted water pollution in our communities? If you can give us examples, that would be great.
Okay, so I think that is a very, very important question. And I will want to start by saying that, you see, water scarcity comes in two forms. The first form has to do with the quantitative availability of the resource. The other form has to do with the qualitative availability of the same resource.
Yeah.
So going back to the question of pollution related to mining, not only mining traditionally is not a thing in northern Ghana, but so as we speak now, alluvial mining, what we in the normal parlance we say galamsey. Galamsey is as active in the north as it is in other parts of the country, and it is directly impacting the quality of these water bodies. The galamsey uses very terrible chemicals, mercury, cyanide, in the treatment of gold in the process, and all of that gets washed into the water bodies. They don't only kill the aquatic lives in the water, but they also, because they are trace elements, they find their way into food crops through irrigation. and they have consequences on human health. So generally, pollution of water bodies, and also look at it from this angle, the disposal of waste, plastic, sachet water, all those rubber stuff. When the rains pour, they wash all these things into the rivers. Consider the application of fertilizer and pesticides and all of these chemicals meant to increase yields of crops at the start of the rains. And as I mentioned earlier, the rains come in downpours, they come in heavy storms. So they wash all these chemicals rightly into the water system, into the reservoirs, causing serious pollution in these reservoirs. And even the boreholes, the hand ducts that we draw water from, they become unsafe. That is why, as part of the activities we do, we also embark on capacity building and awareness creation. So people will understand the effect of their lifestyle, the things they do, and how it comes back to impact negatively on them. Doc, let me not forget of one thing. This pollution we are discussing, we call it anthropogenic pollution. It is driven by human activity. There is a new how should I call it? The Anthropocene. It's like we are in a new era where change.
Anthropocene era.
Yeah, the Anthropocene era. So it is an era where the negative effects that we are experiencing, floods, drought, pandemics, all of these negative things we are experiencing, conflicts, they are humanly induced. They are induced by human activity. So, but not to talk so much about that. There is one thing I need to mention in this conversation. The northern part of the country, especially, there is a district where this is more severe. It's in the Bongo district. The geology of the rock, it contains high levels of fluoride and iron, and that is not a man-made pollution. It is the nature of the rock which naturally pollutes the aquifer, and the communities in that area are known for the typically brownish teeth and weak bones that they have due to consumption of polluted water caused by high concentrations of fluoride and iron. And for such communities, they are of importance to us because you will then have to find ways and means to ensure that they still have access to water, but not groundwater, because technology for treatment of these chemicals, it's quite difficult. Now, let me use a very typical case study of how this pollution of the water bodies indirectly affects or impacts on poverty. So we are having a situation where climate has induced drought, and drought induces water stress. And then with the high temperatures, we are having a tradition where when the rain sets in, farmers burn the first the grasses. They burn the grasses so that they can farm. And when they burn the grasses, and then the heavy rains come, it washes all these pollutants, the rubbers,
Yeah.
it washes because we have that culture of burning before we farm.
Yeah.
So we make it easier for through flow on the surface. It collects all this nonsense, the pollutants, rubber, chemicals, fertilizer, human fecal waste, everything runs directly into the river system. One protection which we have failed to maintain traditionally is, I remember growing up as a kid, they used to say there are taboos. Don't farm close to the river bank because it is a spiritual taboo. You know, we used to have cultural taboos, and so we didn't farm close to rivers. There was a reason, so that all of this, it will serve as a buffer, to avoid the runoff of these chemicals directly into the water bodies. But these days, we see river banks being cleared for to support irrigation without thinking of the consequences of this runoff. These heavy runoffs, they silt the river systems because they carry along the the the, the pollutants, the rubber, the sachet, the surface soil, everything into the river system. So it silts the rivers and silts the dams. So the volume of water that naturally would have stayed in the rivers and the dams is now less because the rivers are silted. Okay, so it impacts also the availability of water in the dry season that can support not only irrigation farming, also for domestic uses, because we fetch from same dams for infrastructure development, for building their houses, and for a lot more domestic applications. So indirectly, uh, we the communities, have a moral role to play, an ethical responsibility to nature, which we as an NGO, yes, you can come in.
Yeah, I'll come to that. I'll actually have a question on that. But the burning culture is not peculiar to northern Ghana or Ghana. I experienced that in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They have it's very huge there. They do a lot of burning, slash and burning, they call it. This is the Green Transition Show with me, Dr. Francis Tuokuu. Our topic for today's episode is No Water, No Future, Climate Change and the Battle for Water. With me to unpack the issues is Mr. Justin Adonadaga. He's the Executive Director of Kalabash Aid. He operates in northern Ghana. If you are new to the channel, kindly hit the subscribe button on YouTube to motivate us to continue to bring you insightful conversations. You can also follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and also on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube. Justin, I want us to talk about, you started talking about the solutions. You talked about how back in the day, where farmers were not allowed to farm around river banks or burn around river banks so that the ashes from the burns will not be washed into the river bodies. And you said there was a reason for that. So I want us to focus on indigenous knowledge, beliefs, local beliefs. So how do local beliefs, indigenous knowledge systems, and traditional practices contribute to water conservation and climate adaptation? If you can briefly talk about that, that would be great. Our audience would like to hear your perspectives on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, you see, there is one thing your question has brought something to mind. We have a tradition. We should call it traditional policies. Yeah. Okay, not the conventional governmental Western-driven policies that we are now implementing. We should have, or we used to have, traditional policies for water governance. Okay, we used to have traditional policies for water governance and water management. Okay, and currently we are having a very serious situation currently. These traditional policies, we no longer recognize them or give them that importance. So traditionally, we have taboos, we have beliefs, we have, I mean, practices, cultural practices that go a long way to enforce water management.
Can you tell us some of those practices? If you can mention
Consider,
some of those. Yeah.
yes, consider the secret groups. Consider the secret groups. Those days, there were places where you can go to cut trees. There were places where you cannot go to farm. So these were places about 30 to 50 meters away from the rivers. We were told that the river spirit controls that part of the land. So the earthly god, these were taboos. The river god, you can't farm between a certain space. It had conservation behind it, so that the riparian vegetation along the river banks, these taboos, these secret groups were meant to serve as buffers to protect the river banks, maintain the integrity of rivers, and clean the rivers. The root system of the vegetation that is along the river banks holds the soil firmly and avoids the soils from the river banks from falling inside. You see, so, and that greenage, those groups serve a traditional conservation principle. Now, come to think of other traditional beliefs. In my village, growing up, and this we try to do it in another way. The dams, the same dam that human beings go to swim and fetch water, is the same dam that the animals come to drink from and shit in. It's the same dam. So there were taboos. There were taboos that say that you no longer you don't wash bowls in the dry season in those dams. Where animals drink, where human beings go to fetch water, animals don't go there to drink. And there were even rest days. There were days in my part of northern Ghana, it was on Tuesdays or Thursdays, there were days that the water bodies were left to rest. This was in another way in conventional management practice. We call it to allow the water bodies, the water system to recharge itself.
Yeah.
Because and this was done in the dry season, because you can imagine the dry season, a dam that in the 1980s is built to contain water for 6 months, that is somewhere from February till June. Now that same dam, same volume, cannot even survive for more than 3 months. So the pressure on these water bodies is high. So taboos like rest periods for not fetching water to allow them to recharge, also not fishing. There were days for not fishing, weeks. There were peak seasons that you don't fish. All these taboos were traditional policies that were implemented, and they were enforced by chiefs and the leaders in our communities. They were not based on international law with its difficulty of there were things that even in their spiritual connotations, you wouldn't dare break them. And they contributed to water conservation. Let me not forget.
Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
No, you.
No, I agree with you. And I remember we're taught that along the coast, fishermen do not go to sea on Tuesdays. I don't know if it's still their practice. I cannot tell, but I remember we're taught in primary school that fishermen do not go to sea to the sea on Tuesdays. This was a rest day, right? But
Yes, you are right. It is still the
it was a
case.
conservation practice. But at the
Yes,
time, we did not know that. But later we got to
yes,
know that it was a conservation practice. But we
yes,
read spiritual meaning into it, that if
yes.
you went to the sea on Tuesday, you will die, or your boat will, you capsize and die, or something like that.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely. You are right. Absolutely. This is the traditional knowledge that we did not critically evaluate its true meaning. These were conversational, conservationalist policies meant
yes,
to conserve nature, because there is no way you will separate water from environment.
yeah,
Climate induced reduced rainfall definitely impacts uh, forestry, because with dry lands, fire will definitely burn. And then what does fire burn? It burn trees. And when trees are gone, what happens? You are introducing desertification. Green cover is lost. When you burn trees, you release huge volumes of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. What do? CO2 into the atmosphere, you are increasing the concentration of greenhouse gases, increasing surface temperatures. So it is a loop. You can separate energy, water, and agri. And
yeah.
all of this hinges on human behavior. Human behavior triggers all of this. So the cultural beliefs, it's something that I really want, the young ones to think carefully about. In as much as conventional management theories and framework is critical, a blend of the two, it's very, very important. A blend of the two, the traditional conservation methods built in the taboos and in the cultural practices, and then the beliefs system that we had should not be totally left out. It should
Yeah.
be a hybrid. Both should come together to improve water management and conservation.
All right, I'm enjoying the conversation, and I believe our audience are doing the same. We appreciate your insights into climate change and water security issues. I want us to, we're getting closer to the end of the program, but I have a few questions I would like to ask. So in spite of all the challenges, all the problems that we've talked about in today's episode of the Green Transition Show, I want you to tell us the coping strategies households and communities are adopting to manage water shortages and strengthen climate resilience. What are the coping strategies they are adopting?
Okay. The With the current situation, you when you are challenged, they say necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes.
When you live in a water stressed environment, you must by all means find ways and means to cope. Adaptation, when you are in a place you can't do anything about the environment, what do? You try to adapt. You can also try to mitigate the negative impact of the environment. So some of the key coping strategies that the communities are currently implementing so that they can meet their water needs lies in rainwater harvesting, so then they have to collect rainwater and from the rooftops using these drums and other tanks to collect the rainwater. And then they have to also try to reduce consumption. You need to look at not only supply. When you are constrained with supply, then you have to look at demand. Demand management, it's very, very critical. So there should be a shift from looking for more water supply to using less water. How do they do that? With the hand dug wells being dry, what other options are available to the communities? If you remember the context of the communities, there are no drainage systems. So water, there are no drainage systems. So and if you want to collect wastewater to reuse it, it is very difficult for the communities. But in the urban areas, it is more practical. So in as much as wastewater reuse is very important, even the UN has I think the last two UN wastewater was one of the issues they were talking about. But I am talking about practicality. What is practical in the area? What is practical is to invest in alternative water systems. One of them that is very practical is to collect rainwater. When we are able to collect rainwater, it will help a lot. And then instead of considering digging these big dams, you remember there was this, I don't want to discuss politics here, but traditionally there are ways of collecting, digging smaller dugouts where we can collect water. So the communities, so it is called the decentralized water storage systems. You don't have to let the water run to a big dam, which is highly silted, but then these reservoirs are community-based reservoirs. And let me also say, it is not every community that can have a reservoir. Several communities can, because you have to look at the slope of the ground and where water runs towards. So they dig these reservoirs and then they collect water and they serve dual purpose for irrigation and also for domestic applications, not drinkable too, but these are very practical approaches that we are helping the communities to start. One thing that actually affects these strategies is when you collect water and the surface is open with the temperatures, how long can the water stay? That is another huge concern that we are thinking about how to handle that. Planting of trees around the existing water bodies, it's may take time, but we need to embark upon it. So these coping strategies by the people to manage themselves. Also, let me mention water treatment. Water treatment, we call it household water treatment systems because of the highly polluted nature of the water. We try to encourage them. In fact, we are currently working with two partners, one from Canada, and that is Cost. Cost is they bring sustainable water, affordable solutions, and they are based in Canada. We are doing treatment solutions in 7 districts in the Upper East region with Cost, and we are trying to expand. We are also working with, and so that is water treatment. So they have different ways of treating water. We use sand filtration. We also bring them water filters, and then there's another one where we give them chemicals to coagulate the dirt, and then also we train them. We build it, they know we build their capacity on the to boil the water, and then to, because with the breakdown of so many boreholes, and as I mentioned earlier, because the water table is going down, a borehole which is drilled in 2016, that is about 10 years ago. Now that same borehole, if you go to pump water out of it, you realize that the water is no more coming out. So it means that the water table has gone down. So most of these challenges, the people rely on the hand dug wells and then on the surface water sources. But when they pick the water from those places, then how then will you manage for your own health? So we encourage them to treat the water through various means. If you go to Tamale, if you go to Tamale, Tamale is a very peculiar area. We are really struggling because Tamale, the water table is really too low, and it is a place we are introducing a lot of this the low cost water treatment technology for them to treat their water before drinking. So these are some of the coping strategies we are trying to introduce into the communities.
Okay, so what are your final words as far as water security and climate change is concerned? What are your final words? What will you want to leave our viewers or our audience with?
I will first of all say the government of Ghana holds a responsibility to help fix the system. We need, let me be very blunt, we need some serious reforms in our water sector. Until now, this country is focused on increasing supply. Supply that you don't control is very difficult. You should try to manage what you can control. Demand, we can control demand. We cannot predict the future of water supply. Hello? 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 Hello. I don't want to spoil the recording. The recording stopped.
No. Hello, Justin.
Yes.
Yes. So please, your final words. Sorry, there was an interruption here.
Yes, there was an interruption, so I couldn't. Can you see me?
No, but yes, give us your final words.
Okay. So, in conclusion, I am proposing that the government should look at the current water policy and try to concentrate more on demand management instead of trying to increase supply, because with climate change you are unable to predict the volumes that will come in the future, although we can invest in the research, because you can't manage what you cannot measure. So the government will have to invest heavily in the research to be able to collect the needed data to forecast the future, and based on that, invest in technology that will build resilience in the face of climate change. Otherwise, we may be focusing on interventions that are not sustainable in the face of climate change in the near future. So, in conclusion, both government, NGOs, and the communities led by the chiefs and the traditional leaders will need to coordinate and really look into our water policy, right from the basin all the way to the kitchen and all the way to the farm. We need to really look our water policy and see how best we can engineer it and retool it with a climate sensitive mindset. It's the only way in this environment we find ourselves, we will be able to guarantee reliable water supply. It's the only way we can achieve water security for the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. We apologize to our viewers for the interruption. It was due to a circumstance beyond our control. We thank Justin. It's been an insightful conversation, and we appreciate your time and your insights. This is where we'll end the Green Transition Show for episode 21. If you have not subscribed to the channel, kindly hit the subscribe button on YouTube to motivate us to continue to bring you insightful conversations. You can also follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.